Hey everyone, welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily, and with me as always is Nick. Today, we're diving into a topic that I know frustrates a lot of English learners, feeling like you're stuck, not improving, and wondering why all your effort isn't paying off.
That's right, Emily. We've all been there, spending hours studying vocabulary, listening to podcasts, and practicing speaking, only to feel like nothing's changing. And the truth is, this plateau is actually very common in language learning. But the good news is, once you understand why it happens, there are clear ways to break through it.
So in this episode, we're going to explore the main reasons learners hit these plateaus, from inefficient study habits to psychological barriers, and give practical tips to reignite your progress and make your learning feel productive again.
Exactly. And we'll also talk about how to identify what's really holding you back, because sometimes it's not about studying harder, it's about studying smarter and approaching English in ways that actually stick.
So, if you've been feeling stuck or frustrated with your English journey, stick with us, because today's episode is all about turning that stagnation into forward momentum.
Let's start by talking about one of the biggest culprits, repetitive learning without variety. When you do the same exercises every day, like memorizing word lists or repeating the same listening exercises, your brain starts to plateau because it's not being challenged in new ways.
Right, and a lot of learners focus too much on passive activities, like reading or listening, without enough active use, like speaking or writing. Engaging actively forces your brain to make connections, recall vocabulary, and practice grammar in real contexts, which accelerates progress.
Another factor is setting unrealistic expectations. Some learners expect fluency in a few months, get frustrated, and feel like they are failing. But improvement is often gradual and sometimes invisible. Small wins, like understanding a conversation better than yesterday, are still progress.
And let's not forget motivation. Without clear goals or a sense of purpose, learning can feel mechanical and boring. Finding reasons to use English that matter to you personally, like talking to friends, watching shows without subtitles, or even thinking in English, can reignite that spark.
Absolutely. We'll also discuss how reviewing your study habits, mixing different methods, and keeping track of your progress can help you break through plateaus and start seeing tangible improvement again.
So, if you're ready, let's dive deeper into each of these points and find strategies that actually work to get your English moving forward again.
Let's begin with study variety. One of the most effective ways to overcome a plateau is to diversify the ways you interact with English. Instead of just reading textbooks or memorizing lists, mix in listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, and even reading articles on topics you enjoy. This variety engages different parts of your brain and helps you internalize language naturally.
Exactly, Nick. And it's not just about consuming English passively. Active practice is crucial. Try speaking aloud, recording yourself, or even shadowing native speakers. Writing short paragraphs or journal entries in English also forces you to actively recall words and grammar patterns, which strengthens memory.
Another big factor is tracking your progress. Sometimes learners don't realize how much they've improved because they are not monitoring it. Keep a language journal or record your speaking practice weekly. When you look back, you'll see that you are indeed progressing, which is motivating in itself.
And we can't underestimate the power of realistic goal setting. Instead of aiming for fluency as a vague target, set clear, achievable goals like learn 10 new words a week, listen to one podcast episode daily, or have a 5-minute conversation in English every day. These small, measurable goals build momentum.
Also, consider why some methods might not be working for you. Not every technique suits every learner. Some people thrive with flashcards and spaced repetition, while others retain more through conversations or storytelling. Experimenting with different methods helps you find what sticks best for your learning style.
And let's talk about motivation again. Sometimes a plateau isn't about ability, it's about enthusiasm. If you feel bored or disconnected from English, try incorporating it into your passions. If you love music, read lyrics and analyze songs. If you like cooking, follow English recipes. Linking learning to your interests makes it much easier to stay consistent.
Lastly, be patient with yourself. Progress in language learning isn't always linear. Some weeks you'll feel like you're advancing rapidly, other weeks it might seem like you're going backward. Understanding that ups and downs are normal helps reduce frustration and keeps you moving forward.
By mixing study methods, actively practicing, setting achievable goals, monitoring progress, and keeping motivation high, you can break through the plateau and continue improving in English. These strategies help you turn a stagnant learning phase into a period of steady, tangible growth.
Now that we've covered the reasons behind plateaus and the ways to overcome them, you can start applying these tips to your daily routine and see the difference for yourself.
Another thing to consider is your exposure to real, natural English. Sometimes learners focus too much on perfect grammar and textbook language, which can make real conversations feel confusing. Listening to native speakers in varied contexts, like vlogs, interviews, or casual conversations, helps you get used to natural speech patterns, slang, and contractions.
Yes, and when you listen, don't just hear the words, try to notice rhythm, intonation, and word stress. These subtle features make a huge difference in understanding spoken English. Shadowing, or repeating immediately after the speaker, can help you internalize these patterns quickly.
And speaking of speaking, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Many learners stop improving because they are too afraid to speak. Making errors is actually a sign that your brain is experimenting with the language and learning from experience. Correcting yourself over time is how fluency develops.
Another overlooked point is mental fatigue. If you're studying English for long hours without breaks, your retention drops. Short, focused sessions with breaks in between are much more effective. Even 20 to 30 minutes of high-quality practice daily can be more beneficial than hours of passive study.
Also, try to immerse yourself mentally even outside study time. Think in English during daily activities, narrate your actions, or describe your surroundings. This trains your brain to use English automatically instead of translating from your native language, which is a common bottleneck.
And remember, learning is not a one-size-fits-all process. Some learners plateau because they are using methods that don't match their learning style. Visual learners benefit from diagrams and videos, auditory learners from listening exercises, and kinesthetic learners from active writing or speaking tasks. Tailor your approach accordingly.
Finally, review regularly. Even if you feel you've learned something, revisiting it strengthens memory and builds connections between new and existing knowledge. Spaced repetition, flashcards, or revisiting old notes can make a noticeable difference over time.
All these strategies combined, varied exposure, active practice, mental immersion, regular review, and understanding your learning style, can help you break through a plateau and continue advancing in English.
Another factor that often holds learners back is motivation and mindset. Sometimes you might feel stuck because progress feels slow, and that can be discouraging. But remember, language learning isn't linear, it's full of ups and downs. Recognizing small wins along the way keeps your motivation alive.
Absolutely. Setting realistic, achievable goals helps a lot. Instead of aiming to understand every single word in a native conversation, focus on key phrases, main ideas, or understanding context first. Gradually, comprehension grows, and your confidence will follow.
Also, don't underestimate the power of social interaction. Engaging with native speakers or fellow learners, even in casual conversations online, forces your brain to process language in real time, which is one of the most effective ways to improve listening and speaking skills.
And when you do listen or speak, take notes or record yourself. Listening back can reveal patterns, mistakes, or pronunciation challenges that you wouldn't notice in the moment. Reflection like this accelerates improvement and builds self-awareness.
Another tip is to make English fun and relevant to your interests. If you enjoy cooking, watch English cooking shows. If you like gaming, Follow English gaming streams. When learning aligns with your passions, your brain retains information more easily, and the process doesn't feel like a chore.
Finally, consistency beats intensity. Practicing a little every day is much more effective than cramming sporadically. Even 15 to 20 minutes daily, done consistently, compounds into massive progress over months and years. Your brain rewards consistency more than occasional bursts of effort.
And always remind yourself, plateaus are normal. They are not signs of failure, they are signs that your brain is consolidating knowledge. Patience, persistence, and smart strategies will help you overcome them and continue progressing in English.
Something else worth pointing out is that sometimes learners confuse activity with progress. For example, you might spend hours watching English videos or scrolling through English posts, but if you're not actively engaging, like pausing to note down phrases, repeating sentences, or testing your understanding, you may not be improving as much as you think.
Exactly. Passive exposure has its place, but active practice is where growth really happens. That's why shadowing, summarizing, or even teaching someone else what you just learned can transform the same material into a much more powerful tool.
Another area to think about is balance. Some learners focus too heavily on one skill, maybe just reading or just vocabulary memorization, while ignoring listening or speaking. English is an interconnected system. Improving one skill supports the others, but you need to give each area some attention.
And don't forget feedback. Without feedback, you can't truly know where you're improving or where you're stuck. Whether it's from a teacher, a language partner, or even AI tools, constructive feedback helps you correct mistakes before they become habits.
Right. And sometimes the best way to shake off that feeling of not improving is to look back at where you started. Compare your English now with what it was 6 months or a year ago. You'll probably notice you've grown much more than you realized.
That's such a powerful reminder. Progress in English isn't just about how many new words you learn today, it's about the confidence, the fluency, and the understanding you're building step by step.
And another big factor is consistency versus intensity. A lot of learners try to do everything at once, study grammar, read a book, memorize 100 words, and then they burn out. But someone who studies just 20 minutes every day usually improves faster than someone who studies for 3 hours once a week.
Yes, because the brain thrives on repetition and steady exposure. Short, consistent sessions create stronger memory connections, while long but irregular sessions tend to fade away more quickly. That's why routines matter so much.
Also, many learners don't challenge themselves enough. They stay in their comfort zone, using the same basic words, reading only what feels easy, or speaking in simple sentences. If you're not stretching your English, you won't grow.
At the same time, pushing too hard can make you frustrated. The sweet spot is when something feels just a little bit difficult, like 70 to 80% understandable. That's where your brain works hardest, and that's where the magic of improvement happens.
Another reason people feel stuck is they're comparing themselves to native speakers instead of comparing themselves to their past self. Of course, you'll feel like you're not improving if you only measure against perfection.
Yes, and English isn't about reaching perfection anyway. It's about communication. If you can express your thoughts more clearly than you could last month, that's real progress. Even small improvements in fluency or understanding count.
So if you feel like you're not improving, don't panic. Look at your habits. Are you consistent? Are you practicing actively, not just passively? Are you giving yourself enough challenge, but not too much? And are you tracking your progress over time instead of comparing yourself to others?
Exactly. Improvement in English is rarely a straight line. Sometimes it feels slow, sometimes you feel stuck, but if you keep showing up, keep listening, reading, speaking, and writing, you are moving forward, even if you can't see it day by day.
The truth is, English improvement is like building strength. You don't notice the change every single day, but months later you look back and realize you're stronger than before.
So be kind to yourself, Stay consistent, and remember that every little step counts. You're improving more than you think.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Keep going, you're doing great.